how the heck do you train for a 200-mile gravel race? What kind of gear do you need? What kind of food can you eat? How do you carry food and water for a 200-mile gravel race?
I've raced the Dirty Kanza 7 times and have learned some lessons along the way. I've learned what works and what definitely doesn't.
I've never done the race. I'm excited and more than a little bit intimidated. Nonetheless, the road to Kansa starts here. So rolling here on these smooth Colorado dirt roads been treated with mag chloride, I think, like, why not just run a road tire? It would be faster, right?
It's a different animal in Kansas. Big gravel, like golf ball sized gravel. The roads are gonna consist of limestone and flint. Think of yourself as riding over thousands of little arrowheads, waiting to destroy your tires. Tubeless is a must. Fresh tires, fresh sealant are also always a good idea.
So what's your advice on carrying stuff? I remember last year you had what I think of as a full-on triathlete setup with 2 bottles mounted off the seat posts. Why not just carry a pack?
Well, you could do both. And in years past, I've used a Camelbak with bottles. Other years, I've just used bottles. Both approaches can work well. The people that use packs off the front of the race often have 2, so they'll carry one with them. They'll have another set up and ready to go at the feet. Dump one, grab the other, and go.
On the mountain bike tech side of things, we're seeing suspension crop up in all different places and all different designs, whether it's the Lao fork or specialized with the Future Shock, or you've got a suspension stem. Is that just a gimmicky fad, or is there something to it?
Well, my take is that the future of gravel is suspended. Now, that might not mean like suspension like you see on a mountain bike. That might be engineered flex in the frame, but it definitely makes a difference, even more so than just low pressure in your tires. And the benefit there is just mitigating fatigue, right? You're trying to stay as comfortable for as long as possible. There's a lot of energy foods out there that work for short events that just, at least for me, just shut my stomach down. Really sweet gels don't work for me. I like to use a mixture of electrolyte drink, but also some real food. Some nuts, a bit of trail mix, maybe some homemade energy bars. But yeah, I've definitely made a lot of nutrition mistakes. That's probably the #1 reason I've DNF'd at Dirty Kanza.
The road to Kansa is supported by Camelbak, makers of the Podium insulated bottles, which we've been using, and the Chase vest, which I used at Land Run on 100 and was glad to have that when the front group went clear through the one checkpoint of the day. And a few of us didn't have any support out there, so I was glad to be self-sufficient and just rolled straight through and was able to stay with the front group that way. So in addition to picking Josh's brain excessively, I've been going around asking some of my friends who have done it and even some former winners for their advice on what to do and what not to do.
My philosophy in terms of training for this kind of thing is working on the higher intensity intervals. So doing 5 minute, 1 minute, and then building up from there. So doing some 10-minute efforts that you're building that strength and you're building that resiliency, so that when you are out at Dirty Kanza, having that ability to kind of like really push hard and not just blow yourself up is important. And I think that gets lost a lot of times.
What's the tire choice?
Make it tough. Make it tubeless, carry your spares, know how to use your spares, but definitely go tubeless. The flint there is very real, it's very sharp. If it looks wet for DK, carrying a section of chain and a chain tool and maybe even considering a single speed cog, you can't win if you don't finish. So you need to carry everything you need to get to the line, to get to the finish line.
There's one way you can prepare and one thing that you can't prepare for. So the training is pretty basic. You can put in the miles, you can get a coach, you can, break it all down. The science behind training it's not rocket science, and there is no shortcut to putting in the miles. The thing you can't train for is what's up here. And people for ultra endurance events, people either have it or they don't. After the physical training is gone and 150 miles in, it really does become what kind of grit you have and what's up here instead of down in your legs.
I cannot press enough how important the mental aspect is of it.
Believe in yourself.
You have to do it.
Commit to it.
Get on with it. You can literally keep pedaling. And whether or not you meet your time goal or whether or not you meet any goal that you've placed in front of yourself, just keep rolling, okay? And don't bring a chair to your checkpoints. Make sure that your crew does not let you sit down.
I know this sounds really corny, but it's actually like a really like spiritual kind of emotional experience doing the Dirty Kanza. I do a lot of yoga, actually, you know, and so that's a lot of me time just thinking about finding sort of a quiet place and get comfortable with the pain that you're going to be dealing with out there on the plains of Kansas.
Dirty Kanza is a challenge, but it is an achievable challenge. Just break it into small bites. A 200-mile challenge is basically 4 50-mile challenges. You can ride 50 miles. You just got to do it.
I can do that. I can do 50 miles.
Yeah.
Take care of all the things that you're going to be worried about, like hydration, nutrition, a little bit of training. Make sure all those worries are out of the way, so when you're standing on the start line, you know you've done everything you can to just have fun.
We got 15 seconds. The countdown's yours.
Ultimately, no matter if it's like a time goal or, you know, you're just trying to survive and finish the whole thing, like, just have fun, no matter what it is. And make friends out there, and that's, I think, my biggest piece of advice.
You guys have a prime viewpoint for some good antics, huh? All right.
After doing my homework, talking to past winners and friends about the Dirty Kanza, it was time to dial in my own biking gear. I got Trek checkpoint, which I like. So we got Envy's new gravel wheels here, the G23s. As the name implies, 23 mil internal, nice and plump. We've got Schwalbe's G1 tire. The tires are probably the most hotly debated item of gear here. I've been getting some affirmative nods and some, oh, I want to do that if I were you, shakes of the head here from some of my friends walking around getting their gear ready. We shall see. I think dumb luck has a lot more to do with it than any particular tire technology, but we will see. Being a delicate roadie, I'm not super keen on the idea of a pack, but I think for this event, it's a good option. So my plan is to start with 2 big bottles, and then first checkpoint, get 2 new bottles and a Camelbak chase vest. So just a one quick sling over the shoulder, drop 2 bottles in and go, and then repeat that for the next 2 checkpoints. I've got a few simple goals. Don't fall down, finish the thing, and try to stay with the front group or a front group for as long as possible, because the more the merrier, the more draft, the easier. So I'm curious to see how long that will last. It's 5:20 a.m. race day. Woke up to a pretty healthy thunderstorm above us to the north. Got a 30-minute lightning delay. There's a hopefully not too huge storm passes over and is gone forever.
All right, here we go.
Well, that would be flat tire number 1. But we're almost done, right? It's just like another 190 miles or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, almost there. Mile 100 something, there's the second checkpoint. Chris just peed, which is a good sign. You know, after drinking 4,000 gallons. Got my daughter's carrot cake bread, so life's good. Time for a cold plunge. Grade A foolishness.
Go eat some food.
Mile 180 and I'm cramping. Woo! Cramping like it is my job. Oh dear. So we'll try walking for a while. Now that the left leg has decided it has zero interest in pedaling a bicycle at this point in the game. It's a lovely time for a stroll in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I want to be done. This is a silly event. This is a silly event. And for the second round of immobilizing cramps, we are at mile 190, let's see here, 197. Almost home. Can't pedal, so I'm standing.
From Boulder, Colorado, welcome Delaney.
What was that, Jim?
Man,
Nice job. Did you enjoy that?
Get back to me.
Not sure.
Can I answer tomorrow?
Tell me in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That was 206 miles of a whole lot of gravel riding. There was a long enough day to have multiple positives and negatives and a little bit of everything in between. So my friend Chris and I flatted almost simultaneously, and then we had a slow flat tire changing contest.
I think I just set a land speed record for the slowest change.
Probably put us out 10-15 minutes behind, which not ideal, and it was frustrating initially, but I think ultimately it was probably a positive thing, because otherwise I would have tried to race way above my ability and then blown up halfway through and then had a long way to go. With the last 100 miles being pretty much a block headwind, just riding it in was not necessarily the easiest thing. Started falling apart like mile 180 or so. So last night I think I had 3 goals for the day. Thing 1, don't fall off, accomplish that. Thing 2, stay with the front group or a front group for a while. Didn't accomplish that. And thing 3, I have no idea what that was. Will I be back? Ask me in a couple weeks. Shaking the Dirty Kanza hangover was a substantial task. Took me more than a couple days and nights to get over that. But now that I'm back, refreshed and recovered, I am champing at the bit to go back next year. Already plotting which bike and tires and drinks and such I will use for next year. So Jim, at the end of the race you asked me would I come back? I didn't have an answer at the time, but now I do. Absolutely.